How do you trust this son of yours who every single time you see him in the last few years, everything gets leaked?
Nobody wants them here except sort of marginally the king who wants to see his grandchildren. Not a single person in Britain apart from the king.
This is what she thrives on. This is the water, the oxygen to this person. Because when you've never had fame for your talent, if you can just be written about, then that's wonderful.
How do you place your trust in a son who seems to ignite drama every time you lay eyes on him? These past few years, every encounter with him feels like a spark ready to set things ablaze. The vibe isn't about trust, it's about suspicion. It's not really trust at all, they just don't have it in Harry. To the royal family, Harry is almost like how Brooklyn Beckham is seen by his own family, a figure surrounded by expectation, scrutiny, and a complicated mix of hope and doubt. As preparations began for Harry and Meghan's return, everyone acted as if the past conflicts and controversies had simply vanished like the slate was wiped clean. But behind the polished welcomes and rehearsed smiles, the air was thick with tension. Negotiations, conditions, unspoken rules, they all shaped the mood of this so-called reunion. The biggest elephant in the room? Trust, or really, the lack of it. At the eye of this storm was Queen Camilla, reportedly standing at the core of these trust issues. Royal insiders and commentators have often pointed out her cautious, even guarded stance when it comes to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex.
Don't trust them. Period. They just don't trust them. I mean, Harry to them is like Brooklyn Beckham is to the Beckham.
Well, the word is same treatment this time. If they do get this audience with the king, they're going to be strip searched, not strip shirts. They're going to be searched, bodies searched, and they're not going to be allowed to take in phones.
They'll have to sign NDAs, probably.
Recording devices. I mean, this is extraordinary, isn't it?
Angela Levin, a well-known royal observer, shared a particularly pointed insight. There's a belief that Meghan might use this carefully choreographed trip to quietly promote ventures that haven't quite taken off the way she hoped. Whether you agree or not, it's a detail that fuels the unease. Camilla is often portrayed as a figure of stability and tradition, but her relationship with Harry, especially since the explosive revelations in his memoir Spare, has been notably fragile. Harry's candid discussions about private family moments and his critical reflections on Camilla created a rift that has not easily healed. This history is never far from anyone's mind. This tension was glaringly evident during Harry's last visit to London, which came amid King Charles's health concerns. Even the tiniest gestures seemed loaded with meaning. When Harry showed up at Clarence House to meet briefly with his father, it wasn't the familiar, relaxed visit you might expect from a close family member. Instead, there was an unmistakable distance, a formality that only deepened the sense that trust was still very much missing, hanging heavy in the air like an unspoken warning. When Harry arrived, he was reportedly required to enter through the main security checkpoint, no discreet back door, no shortcut, and certainly no special privileges. This wasn't the kind of welcome that suggests all is forgiven or everything's back to normal. Instead, Harry had to go through the exact same security screening as any other visitor, a subtle, yet deeply symbolic detail.
The whole world knows this attempt at a reconciliation, in quotation marks, with the royal family is a desperate attempt by a couple that has failed in an epic, humiliating fashion.
So when Harry comes back, particularly with his family, it's just one long right royal snub from the rest of the royals, and that's embarrassing to say the least.
For some observers, this wasn't just about logistics, it was a clear message. While Harry is still officially the king's son, many commentators argued that he was being treated more like an outsider, a guest, rather than a trusted member of the royal inner sanctum. That kind of treatment sent ripples through the palace scene because, inside the monarchy, trust isn't just about warmth or family dinners, it's the backbone of how the entire institution functions. Think about it. The royal family navigates a world filled with private conversations, strictly confidential schedules, intricate security protocols, and sensitive information that can impact national security or public reputation. When that foundational trust starts to crack, it's not something that can be fixed overnight. Rebuilding it is often a painstaking uphill battle where every word, every gesture, every decision is scrutinized more than ever before. Supporters of Harry and Meghan would argue that the couple was within their rights to speak out, to share their personal stories openly, and to defend themselves in the public eye. From their perspective, transparency was necessary. It was about telling their truth after years of quiet endurance. But their critics saw it from an entirely different angle.
I am showing you explosive proof of how the BBC lied to me. That is our national broadcaster that is paid for by us, and they lied to protect Harry.
Nobody wants them here except sort of marginally the king, who wants to see his grandchildren. Not a single person in Britain apart from the king wants them anywhere near this country. It's going to be humiliating for them. They are going to get the frosty reception from hell, aren't they? Here's the answer. Because to take the easy option and just stick around in California won't get Manic Meg a single column inch of positive publicity. In stark contrast, jetting back to Britain and hooking up with the king will garner the type of headlines the Duchess urgently requires if she is to have even the slightest chance of saving her dead business walking.
To them, those candid interviews and revealing moments weren't just harmless disclosures, they were breaches that led to real consequences. Consequences that couldn't be waved away simply because time moved forward or the players changed. So, long before Harry and Meghan could even dream of regaining their footing within Britain's royal fold, a much more daunting barrier awaited them behind the palace doors. And interestingly, Queen Camilla wasn't just a background presence in all this tension, she was reportedly involved in a way that stirred even more intrigue. During the key meeting Harry had with King Charles, reports say Queen Camilla was in the room the entire time, watching, listening, and perhaps influencing the undercurrents of the conversation. For critics, her presence was yet another sign that the fragile trust had slipped even further and that this family drama was far from simple or straightforward. One of the most significant sources of tension between Harry and the older generation of the royal family revolves around access.
The Duchess in particular is said to be in a state of near terror at the grim prospect of a cold-as-ice response from the royals and a cacophony of booing from Brits, who she seems to believe are a nation of racist slave drivers.
Spent years trashing our country, who's branded the royals a bunch of callous racists.
And he emphasised the concern that Angela Levin has actually reported here on Outspoken, that Meghan is going to use the trip to push her failing business.
Access to private moments, trusted conversations, and the sort of informal interactions that once seemed guaranteed. Now, whether every detail reported in the media about these restrictions is entirely accurate is still debated, but the overall story remains unmistakably clear. According to palace insiders and royal watchers, Harry can no longer assume he'll be welcomed behind closed doors without question or delay. That shift signals a profound change in how trust and intimacy are being managed within the family. Then, there's Prince William, whose approach to this delicate situation couldn't contrast more sharply with Harry's public responses. Unlike Harry, William has chosen a path of quiet restraint. No explosive interviews, no lengthy public statements laying out his feelings or setting the record straight. Instead, his stance has been communicated through his actions, or rather, the deliberate decision by many accounts to keep a respectful distance. As rumours intensified around Harry and Meghan's plans for a visit
to Queen Camilla, he's friends with the Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, and just a few weeks ago was pictured partying with Edo, Beatrice's hubby. And that's a whole other story, but she was there too. So he has direct sources from within the royal family who are telling him, no, we don't trust Meghan, no, we don't want her back, and are even comparing Prince Harry to Brooklyn Beckham.
They said, no. Camilla said you can't come through this way. She made him go through the security doors at the front to check for phones or recording devices, because she doesn't trust him an inch. And if you remember, she also insisted on sitting there throughout his meeting with the king to make sure he didn't leak anything.
Speculation quickly spread that William, Catherine, and their children might not be present for any family reunion. This absence hasn't simply been read as the fallout of a typical sibling dispute. Instead, numerous commentators interpret the silence and physical distance as a clear sign William may have emotionally disengaged, stepping back from the ongoing drama in a way that sends a strong, unmistakable message. This difference in reactions is crucial to understand. When two parties argue, it means relationships are still alive and responsive. Words are exchanged, defenses raised. The battle, while difficult, keeps a channel open for reconciliation. But the wall of silence William is reportedly maintaining speaks volumes of a different kind. It suggests exhaustion, or perhaps a strategic choice to prioritize peace and stability over public conflict. Critics of Harry and Meghan see this as a signal that William may no longer see any upside in prolonging the public tug-of-war. The calculated distance, especially with these recent developments, underscores a growing divide.
He thinks he's going to waltz back in and everybody's going to go, oh yay, Harry, is just a fanciful delusion on his part. But Harry and Meghan do live in delusion. It's how they've kept going, I think, this far, is that they have to delude themselves constantly as to their state in life. But they failed in Hollywood, they failed in the royal family, and they're going to try to fall back to the royals, but I just don't think that is a situation that will work at all, and they definitely will not be welcomed back.
The tension escalated even further, with reports involving Meghan's alleged requests for logistical arrangements, specifically asking for use of a helicopter associated with travel plans linked to Birmingham and the Invictus Games. That particular detail quickly sparked controversy. The Invictus Games, after all, are deeply connected with Prince Harry's identity and charitable work, making any discussions around logistics feel loaded with additional emotional weight. This wasn't just a matter of transportation, it symbolized a larger struggle over legacy, respect, and boundaries within the family dynamic. Royal commentators noted that such requests placed William and others in the difficult position of balancing protocol, family loyalty, and public perception, intensifying an already fragile situation. Prince Harry has long been known for his dedication to supporting wounded, injured, and sick service members and veterans, a cause close to his heart and one he has championed with genuine passion. Yet, even with this positive work, questions and criticism about leadership choices, the spotlight surrounding their royal duties, and the overall direction of the organizations tied to the couple have continued to swirl in the public eye. A particular story that caught fire involved Meghan reportedly requesting royal transportation during a critical moment, which quickly became a hot-button issue among critics and commentators alike. According to various reports, this request was denied.
What would upset Prince William and the Princess of Wales is Harry and Meghan coming in general, not the offering of a royal estate, because that's happened in the past. It wouldn't surprise them. But Harry and Meghan coming in general would probably get under their skin, because Harry and Meghan have rejected this royal family. They've slandered this royal family.
The idea that Meghan's in her delusional, arrogant, self-hypnotizing state can actually believe that she is going to come back over and swan over here occasionally and just wave her broomstick, her magic wand.
Sparking further conversation and speculation about where the couple might stay instead. The talk then reportedly shifted toward Windsor as a potential residence, but Windsor introduced its own set of complications. As a royal stronghold, deeply intertwined with Prince William, Catherine, and their children, the idea of Harry and Meghan staying there was seen by many insiders as a recipe for tension, the very kind of awkward situation the family was reportedly trying to steer clear of in the first place. Rumors swirled that William himself was firmly opposed to the arrangement, adding to the narrative of friction within the family dynamic. With Windsor off the table, Sandringham was floated as another possible option. Yet, according to the same sources, Meghan was reportedly not enthusiastic about this idea either. This refusal only fueled the speculation machine further. Some commentators pointed to Prince Andrew's connection with Sandringham estate, suggesting that its association with him, combined with the relentless presence of photographers and intense media scrutiny, made the estate an unappealing choice for Harry and Meghan to call home. However, it's important to emphasize that these interpretations remain just that, interpretations, with no solid evidence confirming Meghan's exact reasoning for declining Sandringham.
Is that basically she wanted not to be where they've suggested, which is up in Sandringham, but actually in Windsor. She thought that would be more convenient, perhaps even using the royal helicopter to fly up to Birmingham. Oh, yes. I mean, you've got no idea what's really going on behind the scenes.
At the same time, critics were quick to highlight what they perceived as a contradiction here. Harry and Meghan have often been vocal about the immense pressure they felt working within the royal system itself, describing the relentless media hype, strict protocols, and suffocating restrictions placed on them during their time in the spotlight. This narrative stood in stark contrast to what some viewed as a desire for royal comforts like specialized transportation, creating a complex and sometimes misunderstood picture of their situation. The ongoing scrutiny around these decisions reveals just how challenging it can be to navigate family dynamics, public expectations, and personal boundaries, especially when every move is under a microscope. They had publicly voiced how suffocating and harmful the royal environment felt to them, describing it as a place that weighed heavily on their well-being and freedom. Yet, surprisingly, recent reports suggest they were very much interested in tapping into royal resources once again, including the chance to stay at one of the monarchy's most revered and historically significant residences. Supporters of Harry and Meghan quickly point out that there's nothing out of the ordinary about asking for security detail, transportation, and appropriate accommodations, especially during an important or official visit. After all, such requests have long been standard protocol for members of the royal family and their close guests.
It makes sense at all for Harry and Meghan to just waltz back in as if nothing has happened. They can, yes, have familial relations with people, personal ones, but not dynastic ones anymore. They've left that behind. And the British public doesn't really want them. Like, nobody really wants them around. I mean, I'm not even entirely believing that even Harry's own family wants him around. So this idea that he thinks he's going to waltz back in and everybody's going to go, oh, yay, Harry, is just a fanciful delusion on his part. But Harry and Meghan do live in delusion. It's how they've kept going, I think, this far, is that they have to delude themselves constantly.
But critics don't see it that way. To them, this isn't a simple convenience request, it's a fundamental contradiction. They argue that Harry and Meghan want to live life on their own terms, free from the demands and strict expectations of royal duty, yet they still want to enjoy the privileges and protections that come with royal status. This tension between independence and entitlement has become the core reason why this potential visit is stirring up such heated debate across the UK and around the world. It's not just about where they stay or how they travel anymore. The deeper question has turned into whether meaningful family ties can survive without reopening decades-old grievances and frustrations that have haunted them all. Turning now to Prince Andrew, it's important to understand that criticism directed at Harry is often rooted not in hostility, but in a profound sense of loss or frustration. Countless people have followed Harry's life from the very beginning, watching a young boy grow up in front of the world's eyes, facing unimaginable personal tragedies like the death of his mother at a tender age. They witnessed his transition from a beloved royal full of promise and charisma to perhaps the most polarizing figure within the modern monarchy.
In the scenes, Sandringham, she's hoping, will slide away. And I wouldn't imagine her not holding out on this until the 11th hour. The thing is, William won't crumble. Even if the king says they have to, William won't crumble on Windsor. That is 100% for sure.
I think it's very, very, is very dark what he's doing.
I think it's very entitled, like Prince Andrew, and I think it all stems from the Queen, who used to really just say it was a yes woman for, you know, Prince Andrew, and I think it was the same with Harry, because obviously she felt bad about him losing his mother, so I think he was mollycoddled by the Queen.
I think what you're getting at is if you remember the royal family, you're very privileged. You got this incredible status. You've got instant wealth. You never have to to worry about money. You live in palaces. Now, you need an intellect to be able to deal with that. And if you're dumb and thick, like Harry and William,
Andrew.
William's a clever guy. Harry and Andrew, they're both, thick as mince.
And for many long-time observers of the royal family, the feelings involved are far more complex than simple judgment or disdain. What shines through is a poignant sense of disappointment. They hold on to memories of a version of Harry who once seemed grounded, a prince who stood proudly alongside his brother William, united in their shared sense of duty and purpose. That vision now feels distant to some, as if the royal family they once knew has shifted into a new and uncertain chapter filled with conflict and division. Once seen as a key figure championing causes and proudly representing the monarchy across the globe, Prince Harry's role within the royal family has become far more complicated. Over the years, ongoing disputes played out in the public eye, and fractured bonds have significantly reshaped how he is viewed behind palace walls. Many now believe that his standing within the family has shifted dramatically, no longer reflecting the unity and support he once had.
He's a prince. Big deal. He made it known he doesn't want to be royal. Well, he wants to be royal. He doesn't want to fulfill the duties of a royal, except as and when it suits him.
If you're the royal family, and I know this for a fact from talking to people close to them, right, there's a lot of wariness about this. Right? They don't trust them, period. They just don't trust them. I mean, Harry to them is like Brooklyn Beckham is to the Beckhams now.
She doesn't get away, and she hasn't got away, either privately or publicly, because not only has the royal family held its line very firmly, but the public have got fed up of her as well. I know people don't like to accept it, but the technique of giving them enough rope to hang themselves with has actually worked very effectively.
This week, Piers Morgan sparked yet another wave of conversation, throwing a pointed comparison into the mix, one that sent ripples across social media and news outlets. Morgan drew a parallel between Harry's fraught relationship with the royal family and the rumoured tensions involving Brooklyn Beckham and his own famous family. His argument? That both men, through the choices they have made and the growing distance in their family ties, have reached a stage where their relatives no longer count on them or regard them in the same way they used to. The comparison struck a chord because it illuminated a universal dynamic familial bonds tested by personal decisions and the inevitable strains that follow. What made Morgan's take even more striking was the source he cited. He claimed his perspective came from conversations with insiders close to the royal circle, those connected to figures such as Queen Camilla and Princess Beatrice. And what he described about the atmosphere surrounding Harry's rumoured visit was telling. It wasn't marked by explosive fury or seething anger.
It was that Netflix party, wasn't it?
And desperate. To your point, Piers, desperate equals dangerous.
Correct.
And Piers is now advocating for their titles to be stripped. And what I thought was really interesting here is Robert Jobson, who you know is someone who appears here on Outspoken, and I have described him as the journalist closest to King Charles, played down the significance of what a meeting would actually mean.
They'll just get some deal and it'll end up like the Spotify or Netflix deal. It'll end up like a load of rubbish. So they'll get a little spike and then it'll just go drop
Well,
off.
I don't think it'll be a deal. I think she's hoping it might trigger some sales of As Ever product.
A little bit.
As one might expect given the history. Instead, Morgan painted a picture of weariness, a profound tiredness that changes everything. This subtle shift in mood means a lot. Anger can flare up and eventually fade. Quarrels might cool down, and sometimes families find ways to mend fences even after serious rifts. But exhaustion? That's something deeper. It suggests a collective fatigue, a depletion of emotional energy that might prevent any more cycles of conflict. When people are weary in this way, it's not just that they want to put an argument on pause. They may no longer have the strength or will to engage with the same issues time and again. Meanwhile, some voices have taken an even more critical tone when discussing Meghan Markle's position. Describing her current situation as increasingly desperate is a perspective, not a universal truth, but it captures how public and pundits alike perceive her ongoing struggles. Despite those characterizations, critics frequently point out that Harry and Meghan continue to benefit financially and socially from their connections to the royal family, a reminder that the ties, while strained, still carry weight and influence in the broader world. The complexity of these relationships, the push and pull between public perception, personal choices, and family dynamics, makes the situation endlessly fascinating.
As ever. More than that, as global interest in them plummets, the scheming Sussex pair know that massaging their connection to the most famous family on earth will get people talking about them again. And in Meghan's mixed-up mind, when you're in the news, you're in the money. And boy, oh boy, do the desperate Duchess and her petulant prince need money. Fast.
Today, I am showing you explosive proof of how the BBC lied to me. That is our national broadcaster that is paid for by us. And they lied to protect Harry. They lied to try and rehabilitate his image.
Behind the headlines and heated debates lies a story about loyalty, exhaustion, and the challenges of navigating both duty and individuality in one of the world's most scrutinized families. Many point to the various media projects, business ventures, and high-profile public appearances involving Harry and Meghan, suggesting that the ongoing attention they receive is not just because of who they are, but because of their unique royal connection. From this angle, critics argue that any talk of Harry and Meghan's return to Britain may not be purely about mending family bonds or healing personal relationships. Instead, they speculate that renewed royal associations could also serve to boost their public image or open new doors for their professional endeavors. On the flip side, their supporters are quick to push back against this line of thinking. They emphasize that Harry and Meghan remain public figures who have a right to pursue business opportunities, support charitable causes, and share their personal stories just like any other prominent individuals. Stories, opinions, and debates swirl around the question of their motives, each side digging deeper into the what, why, and how.
An unmitigated disaster, if you wanted to put it into brutal terms. I can't imagine why anybody other than a bit of free publicity would want to hook up with this ex-royal and cable TV actress. You know, there's nothing to be gained other than a bit of free publicity. Of course, as I said, she thrives on this.
£0.1 million is a strange amount of money. That jumped out to me straight away. I've previously worked at a charity. I've had countless celebrities use charities to rehabilitate their images, or their image rather. So £1.1 million, that is a donation that will guarantee you headlines. It's over £1 million. It also means that when it's translated into other currencies, it will still be, by and large, for a lot of currencies, over £1 million. So those headlines go.
But the conversation took an even more intense turn when another story involving Harry began to gain widespread attention. Reports emerged detailing a remarkable donation of £1.1 million linked to a children's charity. Initially, many media outlets presented this donation as a personal contribution coming directly from Harry himself. This distinction quickly shaped public perception. The idea that Harry was personally investing a significant sum of money added a powerful impression of generosity and commitment. However, as journalists dug into publicly available charity records, some intriguing questions arose about the true source of the funds. It appeared that the large donation might not have come directly from Harry's personal finances, but rather flowed through an external charitable foundation connected to him. This revelation sparked even more scrutiny and intensified calls from some individuals advocating for Harry and Meghan to lose their royal titles. The conversation was heating up, and you couldn't help but notice a fascinating voice adding perspective here. Robert Jobson. You might recognize Jobson as someone who regularly appears on Outspoken, and I've often described him as the journalist with the closest ties to King Charles. His insights tend to shed light on the most delicate aspects of royal matters, often providing thoughtful reflections that help shape the broader narrative around these ongoing stories. Imagine the weight such a meeting would carry, the sheer significance of what it could truly mean. For Meghan, tangled up in her own storm of ambitions, leveraging any link to the world's most famous family is a surefire way to reignite public interest. Because in her eyes, being in the headlines isn't just about attention, it's a direct pathway to financial opportunity.
There is a picture of the late Queen, Elizabeth II, with Lilibet. And not only that, she goes on to say that according to people who witnessed Lilibet and the Queen together, who she has directly spoken to, well, come on, who were those people? Harry and Meghan. Like, who else witnessed that interaction? And she says there was a lovely bond.
And right now, both she and her somewhat irritable prince find themselves in urgent need of cash. Their fortunes, it seems, are closely tied to their presence in the media spotlight. But then came a twist. A new story began swirling around, one that threatened to steal their thunder, a claim about a secret, never-before-seen photograph of the late Queen Elizabeth II sharing a tender moment with little Lilibet during the monarch's final months. Picture it, an intimate, heartfelt snapshot of the Queen and her great-granddaughter, a scene brimming with warmth and family love. It's exactly the kind of personal glimpse that would send shockwaves through royal fans and news outlets alike, sparking discussions worldwide. The thought of such an image is tantalizing, an emotional peek behind the royal curtain that could rewrite narratives and reset public opinion. But here's where the story takes a mysterious turn. Despite the buzz, no one has actually confirmed the photo's existence. It remains an elusive whisper rather than a tangible truth. Royal experts, who have closely followed Queen Elizabeth's last years, repeatedly describe her relationship with Harry and Meghan as increasingly complex and strained. What was once private family tension gradually unfolded in front of a global audience, with disputes and disagreements becoming headline news around the world. The Queen, according to some reports, grew more guarded, shielding private moments and sensitive conversations from being exposed. She wanted to keep her inner circle tight and loyal, protecting the family legacy from further public drama. Now, of course, it's impossible to verify every detail of this complicated family history. There are rumors, conflicting accounts, and a swirl of perspectives, some more credible than others. But critics watching the alleged photograph story remain skeptical. If such a deeply important and emotionally charged image really existed, why has no one ever shown it? Why hasn't a single piece of tangible proof surfaced to back up the claim? This question casts a shadow of doubt that lingers, challenging the narrative and fueling ongoing speculation. The mystery remains, and until stronger evidence emerges, this story stays just out of reach, an intriguing puzzle in the ongoing saga of the royal family's public and private worlds. Why has there still been no official confirmation? And why are many people being asked to accept yet another sensational royal claim, one that leans heavily on unnamed sources and swirling speculation? Supporters of Harry and Meghan would quickly remind us that private family photos are just that, private. They argue that the couple has every right to keep their personal moments away from the public eye, with no obligation to release intimate images to the world. And honestly, that perspective carries a lot of weight. Privacy, after all, is a fundamental right, especially in such a high-profile and often intrusive spotlight. Yet, despite this valid argument, the curiosity and mystery surrounding the alleged photograph won't simply fade away. What remains at the heart of nearly every storyline involving the Sussexes is a deep, ongoing struggle with trust. Questions linger. Who can be believed? What really happened? And who is controlling the narrative? This fragile web of trust and doubt keeps the public and media hooked, hungry for clarity that never quite comes. On the other side, critics highlight something that can't be ignored. Harry and Meghan's royal ties are still their most powerful link to media attention. The drama, the revelations, the family tensions, all of these feed the endless cycle of headlines. Without fresh stories about conflicts within the palace walls or new hints of a possible family reunion, the global conversation might eventually shift away. The point is clear, this latest visit carries far more weight than just a casual reunion. It's a pivotal moment, potentially the last chance to remain front and center in a world that quickly moves on to the next big story. In truth, the greatest risk might not be another clash with the royal family, it might be slipping quietly into obscurity, losing their place in the public's imagination. Hovering over all of these uncertainties is one powerful shadow: Prince William's future role as king. If William genuinely feels the bond between him and Harry has broken beyond repair, accepted as irreparable, then everything could change drastically when he takes the throne. What access Harry and Meghan have today, already limited, might tighten even further under a new reign. And some critics suggest that Harry and Meghan understand this reality better than anyone. This knowledge adds a layer of tension and anticipation to an already complex story. It's the biggest question hanging over everything. How will the family dynamic and the public's fascination shift when the crown officially passes to William? In that unknown future lies a story that might be far more dramatic and far-reaching than anything we've seen so far. Royal drama has reached a boiling point, and if Prince William ultimately ascends to the throne while his relationship with Prince Harry remains so severely fractured, insiders and critics alike fear the window for healing and compromise could slam shut entirely. Imagine the weight on William's shoulders, not only preparing for kingship, but navigating the delicate, tangled ties with his brother, which now seem almost irreparably strained. Throughout all this turmoil, Prince William has chosen to keep a measured silence in public, a silence that has sparked endless speculation. Royal analysts and commentators sift through each quiet gesture, debating fiercely what this restrained stance truly signals. Is it simply a cooling-off period, time and space needed before any chance at reconciliation? Or is it an unmistakable sign that William has resolved to prioritize preserving the monarchy's dignity and stability over rekindling family bonds that have repeatedly stirred controversy? Meanwhile, the public's perception of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle has become a complex piece of this unfolding saga. The many headline-making interviews, revealing memoirs, and high-profile media ventures have left a tangible mark, shifting the attitudes of some who once admired the Sussexes. Frustration and fatigue seem to ripple through the audience, sparking conversations that are just as intense as the dramatic chapters in this family's ongoing story. Yet, this narrative is far from its final act. Many unanswered questions continue to fuel curiosity and speculation. What is the true state of Harry's relationship with King Charles? What new ventures does Meghan have on the horizon? Is there space anywhere for a private royal meeting that might spark a thaw? And above all, can these wounds ever truly heal after years spent under the unforgiving glare of the public eye? The road ahead is unpredictable, but it carries the potential to rewrite this family's history in profound ways. As we watch, every move, every silence, every gesture could dramatically reshape the legacy of one of the world's most watched royal families. If you found this deep dive captivating, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with someone who lives for royal gossip and behind-the-scenes stories. Make sure to subscribe for more insider commentary and dramatic reveals you won't hear anywhere else. And hang tight, because up next is another thrilling dive into celebrity controversy that's guaranteed to keep you hooked. Click on the video right now to stay right in the middle of the action. I'll see you there.